A poor nurse adopted 2 babies after their mother died. One day she discovered that sunlight poured through the tall hospital windows, casting a warm glow across the shiny floors. Amanda moved down the main hallway, her steps steady but unhurried, as if each one held pieces of memories she couldn't let go. The familiar antiseptic scent mixed with the faint hum of machinery, wrapping around her like a well-known old friend. But today, something felt different, like the ghosts of her past were walking with her. She hadn't been here in months. What once felt like a place of purpose and comfort had become a haunting reminder of all she'd lost. Her husband Adam and their young son Sean were gone, taken from her in a heartbeat during what should have been a happy family day. The car accident was sudden and ruthless, leaving her to survive in a world that now felt enormous and hollow. For weeks, she was trapped in a storm of grief, reliving that horrible day over and over in her mind. The crash, the screeching tires, the unbearable silence that followed, echoes that still rang in her heart. She had shut herself off from the world, wrapped up tightly in her sorrow. But somehow, even at her lowest, something kept tugging at her, like a quiet voice calling her through the thick fog of pain. It was her work, the hospital, the place where she had always felt the most alive and grounded. Coming back wasn't easy. It took everything she had to walk through those doors, again, to face the sympathetic but pitying looks of her co-workers, to pretend she could ever be the woman she once was. But in the stillness of one long night, as her grief lay the heaviest, she made a choice. She wasn't going to let the darkness take over. She wasn't going to let the pain define her. She was going to keep moving to find some sense of purpose within her pain. As she walked, the familiar rhythm of the hospital began to settle into her soul, calming her aching heart. Nurses bustled, doctors spoke in quiet tones, and the steady beep of heart monitors filled the air, wrapping her in the life she'd always known. It felt like the hospital itself was reminding her why she belonged here, why she always had. To help, to heal, to be a steady presence in the lives of others, even when her own life felt like it was unraveling. "Amanda, you're back." Olivia, a younger nurse, greeted her warmly, though there was a flicker of concern in her eyes. "It's so good to see you." Amanda returned the smile, though it was small, her voice steady, yet missing its usual warmth. "Good to be back. How's everything been?" Olivia paused, her gaze lingering on Amanda's face. "We've managed, but it just wasn't the same without you. We missed you." Amanda nodded, appreciating the thought, though unsure how to respond. Small talk had never been her thing, and now it felt more foreign than ever. She turned toward the hallway, her eyes scanning the rooms and the patients, recognizing faces she used to know well. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. She stopped in front of room 112, a place she'd visited countless times. Inside lay an elderly man, his thin frame a shadow of the person he used to be. Billy had been one of her regulars, a stubborn soul with a heart condition that kept bringing him back here more often than he'd like. But despite his gruffness, Amanda had a soft spot for him. "Billy?" she called softly as she entered. His eyes opened slowly, and a small smile crept onto his face. "Well, well, look who's decided to grace us with her presence," he rasped, his voice rough, yet filled with affection. "They said you were off on some fancy break, but I knew better. Knew you'd be back." Amanda laughed, surprised at how light the sound felt. "You know me too well," she replied, moving to check his vitals. "How have you been holding up?" "Oh, you know." He waved a feeble hand dismissively. "Kelly's been looking after me, but she's got no sense of humor, not like you do anyway." Amanda's smile softened as she adjusted his IV line. "I'm sorry I wasn't here, Billy. I just needed some time." He nodded, his expression growing gentle. "We all need time. but I'm glad you're back." She held his gaze, and for a moment, they simply looked at each other, sharing an unspoken understanding. She'd lost so much. But in this room, in this moment, she felt a reminder of why she had returned. Being there to help, to care, to connect, even when she couldn't heal herself. That was Amanda's calling. The piercing ring of the emergency line shattered the steady hum of the hospital, snapping her out of her thoughts. Her hand went for the phone instinctively, and the voice on the other end was urgent, almost clipped. "Amanda, we need you in maternity. Now." Nothing else was needed. Amanda's heart raced as she put down the phone and headed out. The hospital was no stranger to crises, but there was always a particular tension when the maternity ward called for extra support. Lives were on the line, not just one but often two, sometimes more. Rushing down the hallway, Amanda's mind cycled through countless scenarios. She'd seen it all before. Difficult deliveries, mothers hanging on by a thread, newborns arriving too soon, too fragile. But nothing could have prepared her for what she walked into. As she entered the room, chaos greets her. Nurses surrounded a frail woman on the delivery bed, her face twisted in agony, her breaths shallow and labored. The woman's clothes were torn, stained with the grime of the streets. Her hollow, bloodshot eyes flickered with terror as she gripped the bed, her body writhing in pain. "She's an addict," one doctor muttered under his breath, his tone heavy with judgment. "Who knows what she's been using?" A few staff members murmured their agreement, weariness mixed with discomfort in their expressions. The woman was clearly in critical condition, but the underlying question hung unspoken in the air. Was she worth the risk? Amanda glanced from the woman to the medical team, catching the hesitant looks exchanged among them. The room was thick with tension, the weight of the decision evident on every face. Amanda felt the silent conflict bubbling, the unspoken condemnation. "We can't take the chance," a nurse spoke up, her voice shaky. "She could have anything in her system. We need to protect ourselves and the other patients." The thought made Amanda's stomach turn. She had always known the world could be harsh, but moments like these made it painfully clear. Here was a woman on the verge of bringing new life into the world, yet she was being defined solely by her worst choices. The situation was dire. "No." Amanda's voice cut through the room, her eyes a mix of relief and worry. "We're here to save lives. All lives. That includes hers and her children's." A heavy silence settled over the room. Amanda stepped closer to the woman, whose strained breaths filled the quiet space. She looked around, meeting each person's gaze with unwavering determination. "I understand the risks," she said, her tone calm but resolute. "But those babies she's carrying, they haven't done anything wrong. They shouldn't suffer for their mother's choices." The first doctor hesitated, his brow creased with uncertainty. He wasn't fully convinced, yet he could see Amanda's conviction. After what felt like forever, he let out a sigh and gave a brief nod. "Fine," he said, his voice reluctant yet weighted with the decision. "But we need to be careful." Amanda nodded, feeling a surge of determination. She knew this was just the start. The hardest part was yet to come. The woman's condition was critical, and every second was precious. Amanda gently placed her hand on the woman's arm, hoping to offer comfort. "We're going to take care of you," she murmured. Her voice remained steady amid the tense atmosphere. The woman's eyes flickered open, catching Amanda's for a fleeting moment. In that look, Amanda saw a spark, fear, desperation, maybe even a glimmer of hope. The woman's body tensed with another contraction, revealing just how much strength was fading. Time was running out. The room buzzed with purpose as the team sprang into action, following Amanda's lead. Her determination had ignited a change in the room, transforming hesitation into focus and resolve. The doctors and nurses moved quickly and efficiently, though an undercurrent of tension remained. They were up against not just the physical challenges, but also the silent judgments that had hung heavy just moments earlier. As each minute passed, Amanda stayed by the woman's side, offering quiet encouragement. Her voice remained in steady presence in the midst of the chaos. The tension in the room was so thick, it felt suffocating, every breath an effort to pierce through the heavy atmosphere. The only sounds cutting through the silence were the woman's labored, uneven breaths and the urgent murmurs of the medical team. Standing close, Amanda placed a reassuring hand on the woman's arm, steadying her through each trembling wave of pain. Her cries filled the room, raw and piercing, an expression of a pain that ran deeper than physical agony. This was the cry of someone who'd lived on the edge for too long, battling fear and desperation. Her body was frail, her face drenched in sweat and her wide eyes filled with torment. "Push! You need to push!" urged the doctor, his voice tight but controlled. They had been at this for hours, and the woman's strength was nearly spent. Every contraction drained what little energy she had left, but Amanda leaned in, her calm voice a gentle contrast to the urgency in the room. "You can do this. Just a little longer, and your baby will be here." The woman's eyes briefly met Amanda's, a moment of recognition, maybe even trust, before another surge of pain took her under. With a gasp, she gripped the sheets, veins in her neck visible as she fought against her exhaustion. "Here we go." The doctor's voice cut through as the baby's head finally appeared. A nurse nearby prepared a towel, her focus unbroken. For a moment, everyone held their breath as the doctor guided the tiny baby into the world. A thin, sharp cry filled the air as the newborn took his first breath. "It's a boy," the doctor announced, his relief clear as he passed the baby to the nurse. The baby's cries were strong, a hopeful sound amid the struggle, but the mother, barely conscious, was hardly aware. The moment of relief in the room was fleeting, and another wave of excruciating pain quickly overcame her already fragile body. She gasped, clutching Amanda's hand tightly, as if it were her only anchor. "She's still in labor," a nurse warned, anxiety in her tone. The doctor's expression grew serious as he returned to the foot of the bed. Amanda felt the woman's grip tighten, a desperate plea in her hold. "It's not over yet," she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. "You have to keep going." The doctor's face tightened with worry as he checked her over. "She's having twins," he announced, the realization settling over everyone. The tension in the room, already high, became almost suffocating. She didn't have much strength left. That was obvious to everyone. But there was no time to pause. The second baby needed to arrive quickly. "Get ready," the doctor commanded, his voice calm but filled with urgency. The team sprang into action with practiced precision, yet there was an unspoken fear that this time, even their best might not be enough. Amanda stayed close, gripping the woman's hand firmly. She could sense the woman's life fading with every second, but she kept her voice steady, offering quiet reassurance. "Almost there," she whispered. The woman's breaths were shallow, her face pale, and her lips tinged blue. Each push grew weaker, her body trembling with exhaustion. Amanda noticed the worry deepening on the doctor's face as he worked faster. "Come on," he muttered, his focus laser sharp. Around him, the room was a flurry of movement and sound, but Amanda felt time slow down, her focus fixed on the woman's face as her eyes drifted shut. "Stay with us," Amanda whispered, giving the woman's hand a gentle squeeze. "We need you to stay with us." The doctor's voice cut through the chaos. "The other one's almost here." His eyes met Amanda's, revealing a flicker of doubt, that maybe, just maybe, they wouldn't make it. She has to push now, or we'll lose them both. Amanda leaned closer to the woman, her voice steady and reassuring. You're so close. Just one more push. You've got this. The woman's soft moan of pain was heartbreaking, her body shaking as every muscle strained against the effort. Sweat dotted her forehead, her chest heaving as she gasped for breath. Push, the doctor urged, his voice rising with the pressure in the room. The team moved with urgency, their hands and instruments a blur as they worked to bring this fragile new life into the world. Then, with one final agonizing scream, the woman pushed with everything she had left. Amanda held her breath, watching intently as the second baby, a tiny, delicate girl, slipped into the doctor's hands, her faint cries a sign of life in the midst of the turmoil. For a brief, poignant moment, silence filled the room, carrying the sound of a faint heartbeat, a mother's last breath, and a stark realization that this fight was far from over. Something's wrong, murmured the nurse, standing closest to the bed, her voice barely cutting through the hum of the monitors. The mother, who had been straining moments ago, now lay eerily still, her skin turning a troubling shade of grey. She's seizing, the doctor shouted, his composed facade shattering as he sprang into action. Get the crash cart in here now. Amanda's heart raced as she watched, feeling the woman's hand slip from her own as her body convulsed. The relentless alarms blared louder, each beep counting down faster with every passing second. Come on, stay with us, the doctor muttered, hands moving rapidly as he fought to stabilize the mother. But everyone in the room could see the truth. They were losing her. The life they had fought so hard for was slipping away, fading with each strained heartbeat. A familiar wave of helplessness washed over Amanda, settling like ice in her stomach as she realized they were losing this battle. Adrenaline, now! The doctor demanded, his voice edged with urgency. The nurse hurried to prepare it, but even as the needle entered her arm, a heavy feeling of inevitability hung in the air, a silent acknowledgement that sometimes, no matter how fiercely you fight, the battle is lost. With a trembling hand, Amanda reached out again, brushing the woman's cooling skin. Your babies need you, she whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of her words. Please, fight. But the mother's body only convulsed harder, her eyes rolling back as the seizures grew worse. The doctor's orders came in rapid succession, the team responding with a near-panic urgency, yet the color drained from the mother's face, her breaths growing shallower until they were barely there. Stay with us, Amanda pleaded, tears filling her eyes as she leaned close, her voice shaking. Don't leave them. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the woman's body fell still, her chest rising in one final, shuddering breath before silence filled the room again. A long, piercing beep broke the silence as the monitors signaled the slipping away of a life. In the quiet that followed, the newborn twins' cries echoed through the room, a haunting reminder of what had just been lost. The doctor stepped back, letting his arms fall to his sides in defeat, his eyes meeting Amanda's with a sorrow only felt when the unavoidable becomes reality. The ICU's stark white walls glowed under the harsh fluorescent lights, casting a pale reflection over the scene. The machines beeped and hummed in a steady, clinical rhythm, a chilling contrast to the fragile life they struggled to support. The mother lay unmoving on the bed, her shallow breaths barely lifting the thin hospital gown, while tubes connected her to the monitors, each one a lifeline in this precarious fight. Amanda stood close, her gaze fixed on the woman's face, now drained of any trace of color or vitality. The faint glow she had earlier was gone, her skin waxy, and her lips tinted with blue, as though life was gradually slipping away. But Amanda refused to let go of hope. She's holding on, a nurse murmured, checking the monitors, though her tone hinted at more doubt than confidence. Just barely, the doctor muttered, his skepticism evident as he jotted down a note on the chart. She's in critical condition. There's not much more we can do. It's up to her now. Amanda clenched her jaw, forcing herself to stay composed despite the frustration welling up inside her. She had witnessed this moment countless times before. The point when medicine had done all it could, leaving only the strength of will to hold on. But how could she expect this woman, a stranger who had already been through so much, to find the resolve to keep fighting? She leaned in close and whispered, "You can't give up now, not after all you've been through." The monitors kept their steady beeps, unaffected by her words, but Amanda stayed undeterred. She gently took the woman's cold hand, feeling its limp weight in her own. She tightened her grip, hoping that some part of the woman could feel her, could hear her. "Your babies need you," she murmured, her voice filled with quiet determination. "They need their mother. You brought them into this world and they're waiting for you. They need you to hang on just a little longer." Amanda's words floated unanswered, lingering in the stillness. The machines kept their steady rhythm, filling the room with soft, mechanical hums. Yet the woman on the bed lay so quiet, her breaths barely there, as if the line between life and death had faded to a delicate thread. Amanda's heart ached with the unbearable tension of the moment, a fragile balance between hope and loss. She glanced through the small window, catching a glimpse of the nursery where the twins rested, so tiny and vulnerable. Their lives had just started, and already they had faced so much loss. She couldn't let them lose their mother too. "Please," she murmured again, her voice breaking with the weight of her emotions. "They need you. You can't leave them behind in this world." Then, just the slightest twitch in the woman's fingers, a tiny, almost invisible movement. Amanda held her breath, hope flaring within her, as she tightened her grip on the woman's hand. "That's it," Amanda whispered softly, urging her on. "Stay with us. Don't leave them. Keep fighting." For a moment, it seemed as if her words reached somewhere deep within, sparking a glimmer of response. But then, the monitors started beeping erratically, and Amanda's heart dropped. The doctor rushed over, issuing rapid instructions to the nurses who moved to stabilize the patient. Come on. Amanda's whispered words continued, her gaze locked onto the woman's face. Fear clawed at her heart, the thought of losing her too much to bear. But just as quickly as the alarm had started, the beeping settled, the lines on the screen smoothing out. The doctor let out a breath, relief easing his tense expression. He gave Amanda a quick, unreadable look before returning to the chart. Amanda stayed by the bed, her hand holding on firmly, as though her strength might keep the woman grounded here. She knew the journey ahead would be difficult and unpredictable, but she wasn't letting go. Not now, not ever. "Keep fighting," she whispered once more, her voice filled with a determination she wouldn't surrender. "We're not giving up on you, so don't give up on us." The only sound in the ICU was the steady, relentless rhythm of the machines. Standing beside Dorothy's bed, Amanda's eyes never left the woman, silently willing her to find her way back. The room was bathed in a soft, dim light, casting shadows that seemed to echo the heaviness weighing on Amanda's heart. The twins lay asleep in the nursery, so delicate and unaware, yet they were constantly on her mind. The idea of them starting their lives without a mother and carrying that loss from the beginning felt like a burden too immense to bear. Amanda knew she had to act, anything to give Dorothy a last chance to connect with her newborns. A wild, desperate idea took hold of her, maybe unrealistic, but it was the only hope left. Without a second thought, she turned and hurried down the hallway toward the nursery. The corridor felt endless, each step mirroring her urgency and desperation. When she reached the nursery, her heart ached at the sight of the twins, so tiny, so innocent, bundled up in their blankets, eyes closed and unaware of the struggles surrounding them. Gently she picked them up, one in each arm, and walked back to Dorothy's room. Entering the ICU, Amanda drew curious glances from the staff, but no one intervened. They knew the odds, knew how fragile Dorothy's condition was, and maybe, like her, they were willing to try anything. Amanda moved with steady purpose, undeterred by the weight of her plan. "Amanda, what are you?" one of the doctors began, his voice filled with confusion. "Just let me try," Amanda said, her tone leaving no room for objection. She approached the bed, gazing down at Dorothy's still form with a softened expression. Carefully, she laid each baby beside Dorothy, their tiny bodies nestled close to her. The monitors beeped rhythmically, filling the room with a constant pulse against the surrounding silence. Amanda held her breath, hands hovering protectively over the twins, as if her presence could somehow make this work. "Come on, Dorothy," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Your babies are here. They need you. Just a little longer with them, please." The room held its breath, everyone's eyes on Dorothy's still figure. Amanda's heart raced, hope and fear entwined in each beat. She could feel the chill of Dorothy's hand under the thin sheets, sensing how close she was to slipping away. But then, unbelievably, the monitors began to shift. There was a weak, erratic beep, then another. Amanda's breath caught as she noticed the faintest twitch in Dorothy's eyelids. The room felt as though it was holding its breath, an intense mix of shock and reverence filling the air. Dorothy's eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, but gradually honing in on the faces of her newborns. Her gaze was steeped in a profound, indescribable love, as though the sight of them had brought her back from the edge. A single tear traced down her cheek as her lips moved, forming words too soft to catch. Amanda leaned closer, her heart pounding, straining to hear. "Dorothy, can you hear me?" The reply was barely audible, a fragile whisper, but it was there. "Take care of them," Dorothy managed, her voice weak yet filled with an unmistakable urgency. Her eyes locked onto Amanda's, and in that moment, an unspoken understanding passed between them. "I will," Amanda promised, her voice trembling. "I'll take care of them, I swear." Dorothy's hand shifted slightly, her fingers grazing one of the baby's cheeks. That brief touch seemed to take the last bit of energy she had. Her eyes drifted shut, her breath coming in jagged, shallow gasps. The monitors beeped frantically, the rhythm becoming erratic again, but this time it was final. The fleeting miracle was fading, her grip on life slipping beyond reach. Amanda stood by, unable to do anything, as the light left Dorothy's face, her body settling into stillness once more. The monitors emitted a long, unbroken tone, adding the end of a life that had been cut too short. Tears clouded Amanda's vision, but she couldn't look away. Holding the babies close, their soft warmth starkly contrasting the coldness filling the room, she felt the weight of Dorothy's brief but powerful return. In those last moments, Dorothy had gathered the strength to see her children and to say goodbye. Amanda understood that this small, precious connection would somehow be enough to help them all move forward. As the staff quietly left, she stayed, holding the twins tightly, heart heavy with loss, but strengthened by a new sense of purpose. She'd made a promise she intended to keep. Soft whispers and the clinking of a cart rolling down the hallway interrupted the hospital's ongoing quiet hum outside. But today, there was an unusual energy in the air, a reverberation, like the aftermath of a fierce storm. It was Dorothy's story, a brief miracle that had touched every corner of the hospital. Nurses whispered it to each other in passing, and doctors shared it in quiet tones. It was a story that would linger, finding life in the hearts of everyone who heard it. Amanda had never encountered anything like this before. She had seen moments of grace, witnessed lives reclaimed from the edge, but nothing had ever ignited such a profound feeling of awe. It wasn't just that Dorothy had come back, if only for a fleeting moment, to bid farewell to her children. It was the essence of that scene, the deep, unbreakable connection between a mother and her children, the sheer, unfiltered force of love. As Amanda moved through the hospital halls, she felt her colleagues' eyes on her, their faces reflecting a blend of respect and something even deeper, bordering on reverence. No one asked her for details. They didn't need to. The story had already spread, reshaped and retold, until it had taken on a life beyond itself. Everyone whispered about the mother who defied every obstacle, holding on just long enough to see her babies one last time, leaving not in sorrow, but in the calm of knowing they would be loved and looked after. That tale spoke to something innately human, touching the hearts of everyone who heard it. Standing outside the nursery, Amanda felt the weight of it all pressed down on her. Her hand hovered above the door handle. Inside, the twins slept soundly, blissfully unaware of the profound impact their short lives had already had. For a moment, she hesitated, feeling nearly overwhelmed by the decision ahead. She had given Dorothy her word, yet this went beyond a promise. This meant embracing a role she thought she'd left behind forever, a role she never expected to take up again. With a soft click, she opened the door, and the familiar sterile smell of the nursery, mixed with the gentle scent of baby powder, greeted her. She stepped softly to where the twins lay, their tiny chests rising and falling in unison. They were so small, so vulnerable, yet they had already endured so much. She reached out, her fingers lightly grazing the edge of the little girl's blanket. Her touch was soft, almost tentative, as if afraid that anything stronger might disturb the delicate peace. As she stood there, watching over them, she felt something stir within her, a feeling she hadn't experienced in years. It was a connection that went deep, transporting her back to a time when she'd held her own child, when her entire world had revolved around that fragile, precious life she'd once brought into the world. The ache of that loss had lingered, but now, in this moment, it felt different. It was as if an old wound had reopened, only this time, in a way that might finally allow it to heal. "Aren't they beautiful?" The gentle voice drew Amanda's attention, and she turned to see a nurse standing quietly in the doorway. The nurse's eyes were warm, holding a deep understanding, the kind only someone who knew the whole story could have. "Yes," Amanda replied softly, her voice almost a whisper, her gaze returning to the two sleeping infants. She looked at the twins, a flood of emotions rising in her that she couldn't quite sort out. There was a deep love, a promise, and an ache she hadn't felt in years. "I promised their mother," she murmured almost to herself, "that I'd take care of them." The nurse took a gentle step closer, her nod both reassuring and encouraging. "By taking them in, you'd be giving them a true gift, Amanda, a real chance to live a good life." Those words sank deep, resonating in Amanda's heart. It was more than just fulfilling a promise. It was about something greater, something that seemed to bridge her past with her present, leaving her both overwhelmed and certain. The idea of bringing them into her life, of becoming a mother once again, stirred a purpose within her that had been dormant. "I'm not sure if I'm ready," she admitted, her eyes never leaving the babies. "I've lost so much already. I don't know if I can do this. The nurse placed a steadying hand on her shoulder, offering comfort. "No one ever feels fully prepared for something like this," she said softly. "But you have the strength, Amanda. And you have the love to give them." Amanda closed her eyes, letting the nurse's words sink in, surrounding her like a comforting blanket. Memories of Dorothy flooded her mind. The strength it must have taken for Dorothy to hold on just to say goodbye to her children. That depth of love was rare and indomitable, and now it connected her to these two small, vulnerable lives. When she opened her eyes again, the answer was clear. Even if she hadn't consciously acknowledged it yet, she would care for them. She would give them the love Dorothy had left behind, and in doing so, she would begin to mend a part of herself that she thought was irreparably broken. With a gentle movement, Amanda reached down and lifted the little girl from the crib. The baby stirred slightly, her tiny eyes flickering open before closing again as she nestled into Amanda's arms. And just like that, a bond formed, a silent connection that filled the room with a warmth words couldn't capture. In the quiet of her small apartment, Amanda sat, the weight of recent days pressing down on her like a heavy fog. Yet in the midst of it, a faint but undeniable light began to shine through. The silence in the room was thick and almost overwhelming, broken only by the soft, steady breaths of the twins, now sleeping soundly in the crib she had quickly assembled in the corner of her living room. Their tiny bodies seemed so fragile, yet these two had already faced struggles far beyond their age. As she watched them, a heavy sense of responsibility wrapped itself around her heart, mingling with the lingering sadness she carried, and a flicker of something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. The decision to take them in hadn't been easy. When she first considered it, her mind had been a chaotic mess of doubts and fears. The memories of losing her own son were still raw, and the depth of that loss had nearly shattered her. How could she open herself up to that kind of pain again? But then she remembered the desperate look in Dorothy's eyes, the silent, pleading message she left with her last breath. Take care of them. It was more than a promise she had given in that moment. It was an obligation she couldn't ignore, no matter the cost to herself. As the night deepened, Amanda replayed the conversation she had with the social worker earlier that day in her mind. The woman had been kind and understanding, fully aware of the weight Amanda was shouldering. But she hadn't sugarcoated the truth. "You need to be prepared," the social worker had said, her voice firm but empathetic. "The twins may face significant challenges. Their mother's drug use during pregnancy could have lingering effects, delays in development, emotional struggles, and possibly even physical complications. This won't be easy." Amanda had listened, her heart feeling heavier with each word, fully grasping the implications. She wasn't naive. Over the years, she had seen the brutal consequences of addiction unfold in the lives of too many patients. But this was different. This was personal. "I know," Amanda had responded, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside her. "But they deserve a chance, and I'll do everything I can to give them that." Now, as she sat alone in the dimly lit room, those words echoed in her mind, everything she could. She had promised Dorothy, and she had made that same promise to herself. But the weight of that commitment was just starting to settle in. She knew there would be long, sleepless nights, moments of overwhelming frustration, and times when she would question if she had the strength to keep going. And yet, as she looked over at the two tiny faces resting peacefully, she knew this was her path. It was the only choice she could make. The first days blurred together in a whirlwind of diapers, feedings, and constant worry. While the twins seemed healthy enough, Amanda was acutely aware of the challenges that lay ahead. They were fussier than most babies, prone to bouts of crying that would sometimes last for hours, with little she could do to soothe them. Amanda's heart ached for them, for the hardships that awaited, the struggles they had been born into without choice or preparation. One night, long after the clock had struck midnight, she found herself pacing back and forth across the narrow living room. In her arms, she held the baby boy, his small form pressed close against her chest. His face was scrunched up in distress, and he had been crying for nearly an hour now, his soft but insistent wails echoing in the quiet room. She had tried everything, rocking, humming, gentle shushing, but nothing seemed to soothe him. Fatigue weighed heavily on her, sinking into her bones, and for a brief, vulnerable moment, she felt a pang of hopelessness. What if she couldn't do this? What if she wasn't enough to be what they needed? But then, as she looked down at his tiny, furrowed face, eyes squeezed shut in frustration, something deep within her shifted. Her resolve solidified, steeling her heart against her own doubts. She had made a promise to herself and to these children, and she would keep it, no matter what. She would not let him down. She would not let either of them down. "You're safe now," she murmured softly, her voice barely audible over his fading cries. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Gradually, his cries began to subside, and his small body relaxed, melting into her arms as he finally drifted off to sleep. She held him a little longer, not wanting to disturb the rare moment of peace, letting the gentle rise and fall of his breathing calm her own nerves, quieting the storm within her. She knew this was just the beginning, the first step in a long, uncertain journey. But she was ready. She had to be. As the days slowly passed into weeks, Amanda began to settle into a routine. It wasn't an easy one. There were days when the burden felt nearly impossible, when the demands on her time, energy, and patience seemed unending. The twins had their good days and their bad ones, and through it all, she learned to savor the quiet moments, the tiny triumphs that gave her the strength to keep going. The first time they both slept through the night, the first flash of a smile, the way their small hands reached out for her with pure, unguarded trust. Each of these moments became a lifeline, something to hold on to in the challenging hours. One evening, as the sun was setting, casting a soft, warm glow over the small backyard, Amanda sat with the twins, soaking in the moment. The summer breeze was gentle, carrying with it the smell of freshly cut grass mixed with the subtle, sweet scent of blooming flowers. It was one of those rare, tranquil evenings that she had come to treasure so deeply. The twins, now nearly a year old, were crawling unsteadily across the blanket she'd laid out under the sprawling branches of an old oak tree. Their laughter, innocent and free, filled the air, lifting her spirits in a way that nothing else could. It had been an incredibly tough year, filled with sleepless nights, endless appointments, and moments of self-doubt that had threatened to consume her. But right here, in this fleeting moment, all of that felt like a distant memory, almost as though it belonged to someone else. "Look at you two," Amanda murmured, watching as the boy reached out to his sister, their small hands brushing as they shared a toy between them. It was a small, seemingly simple gesture, but it carried a weight that spoke volumes about the connection they had nurtured through all their shared struggles. "You're stronger than you know," she whispered, her voice filled with a quiet determination. Reaching this place in their journey had taken more time and more effort than she could have anticipated. Each step had been hard-won. The twins had faced more than their share of challenges from the very beginning. Amanda's heart was pounding in her chest far too frequently during their first few months due to the numerous doctor visits concerning health scares and developmental delays. Each setback weighed on her, making her question if she was truly capable of giving them what they needed. There were days when the exhaustion felt insurmountable, when the doubt that she could handle it all threatened to swallow her whole. But for every difficulty, there had been small victories, moments that reminded her why she had made the choice to be here for them. She remembered the first time they managed to lift their tiny heads on their own, wobbling but determined. She recalled the thrill of watching them finally crawl across the room after so many attempts. And then, there was the way their faces would light up whenever she entered the room, a silent affirmation of the love and trust that had grown between them. These were the moments that renewed her spirit, that reminded her to keep going, even when the path ahead seemed daunting. "You're doing great," Amanda murmured softly, more for herself than for the children, as if the words could somehow shore up her own resolve. Over time, she had learned to celebrate these small wins and to let herself savor the ordinary moments that many might overlook. It was in these everyday experiences that she drew strength, realizing how far they had all come together. The twins were thriving now. Their laughter filled the house, a joyful reminder of the life she had fought so hard to build for them. She could still hear the doctor's voice, warning her of the obstacles they might face in the years to come. There would always be challenges and unexpected twists they couldn't predict. But in that moment, all those concerns faded away. What mattered was that they were here, together, forming a family in every sense of the word. As the sun began to set, casting warm, golden hues across the yard, a deep sense of peace settled over Amanda's heart. The constant companions of fear and uncertainty, which had loomed over her for so long, were finally giving way to a quiet, steady resolve. She had weathered the worst that life could throw her way, and she had emerged stronger, more grounded in who she was and in what she could achieve. Reaching out, she gently lifted the twins into her arms. They nestled close, their small, warm bodies pressing against her, and she felt an overwhelming wave of love and gratitude wash over her, as deep and enduring as her commitment to them. Love, yes, but it was more than just that. It was something deeper, something that resonated with every fiber of who she had become. As she cradled them close, Amanda leaned down and whispered gently, "I've got you," pressing a soft kiss to the top of each twin's head. "We've got each other, and that's all we need." Her words were a promise, a vow that they were safe with her. In response, the twins made small, cooing sounds, their little hands clinging tightly to her shirt, finding comfort in her embrace. Amanda closed her eyes, savoring this simple yet profound moment, the pure joy of holding them close to her heart. It was a joy she once believed might never return, a feeling she had feared was lost forever. Yet here she was, in the quiet stillness of the evening, with her children nestled in her arms. In that moment, she knew she had found something far more precious than anything she could have dreamed of. She had found hope, hope that didn't arrive in sweeping gestures or miraculous changes. No, this was a quieter, unwavering kind of hope that grew out of small moments like this one, out of the steady, everyday victories that together formed something extraordinary. It was a hope that came from love, from a belief that no matter how hard things got, they would find a way through, together. And they had done just that. And that, dear friends, is a powerful testament to the enduring strength of a mother's love, to her sacrifices, and the resilience that defines her. If Amanda's journey has moved you, take a moment to reflect on the strength of love and resilience in our own lives. If you found meaning in this story, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might find a bit of hope and inspiration today. And if you're new here, welcome. Don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss a story that touches the heart and reminds us of what truly matters. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us, Stay tuned for more stories that connect us, inspire kindness, and remind us of the power of love. Until next time, cherish the moments with those you love and keep spreading goodness in the world. Take care